Hello and welcome back to this series of instructional videos on the Intopia simulation. This particular section is about reading output. When you participate in the Intopia simulation, once your decision inputs have been gathered and run through the master program, each team will receive some output. Typically the output is emailed to each of the team as an Excel file. So for instance, for period 1, if you're company 23, you'll receive the file comp23 period 1.xls as an Excel file. It contains several different tabs, but mostly it's a financial thing. You'll see a balance sheet, an income statement, a management information systems report, which gives you inventory in units, sales in units and dollars, shipping details, plants, grades, etc. You'll also have a section on cash flow and currency balances, and then your marketing research and decision forms appear at the end. Okay, so let's take a look at what the output looks like here. So I'm just going to go to a sample output that I have right here. And you can see down at the bottom you have the tabs that are listed here. There's balance sheet, income statement, inventory. And your balance sheet looks like this. You'll see there's 4 columns, one that corresponds to each of the operating areas and the home office. So you'll see area 1 is North America. There's a separate balance sheet for that. Europe has a balance sheet for that. China, which is area 3, and then New York, which is your home office in this particular case. Okay, and your balance sheet is your standard balance sheet with assets at the top, your inventory, standard X and deluxe X, and government securities. And then as you scroll down, you'll see liabilities, including common stock at par. So this particular firm started with $75 million. They have their retained earnings here. So you can see they have positive retained earnings in area 1, not doing so well in area 2, doing very well in area 3, and some positive earnings here in home office, likely due to some transfers of retained earnings back from other areas. Okay, your income statement is also in dollars. And you can see this team is looks like they're selling batteries and smartphones. You can see your consumer sales here, 15 million and 45 million respectively in North America. And you can see they have sold intra-company sales. So they have sold smartphones from China to another area. So it looks like they're actually feeding their smartphones from China into North America and selling them there. Okay, and you can see the operating expenses that typically occur in this particular area too. Like commercial admin, this would be your selling costs and your commissions. Your advertising expenses, you've got shipping, warehousing, that sort of thing. Okay. This is kind of a special account down here called sales expediting. Normally you don't see anything in that, but that's a special feature of this game that puts a priority on intercompany sales. So let's say I'm selling some product to Team 13, and I input that I'm going to sell them 10,000 smartphones of grade 4. And I don't have that product available to send to them. In other words, it's not in my inventory. As long as I fill out the form on the website, they'll get it, okay, at the agreed upon price on that form. And what happens is those are expedited from one of the virtual companies in the game, and you are charged an expediting expense. And it'll appear on this income statement. So if you don't have product available, it'll be provided. But normally this expediting expense is quite high, so you end up losing some money as a penalty of doing that. Okay, so if you look at this income statement, you can see that just like on the balance sheet, some very positive income in areas 1 and 3, and not so good in Europe in this particular case. You'll also see after gross income or gross earnings, there's income tax applied. across the areas where there's positive income. In this particular case, it looks like there were gross earnings in home office but no taxes, and you wonder why that may be. It's probably because there were losses in the previous period, and you were able to carry over those losses and not pay taxes in subsequent periods. Okay. You can see the type of expenses and income that occurs in home office. For instance, this particular firm had a miscellaneous income of $10 million in home office. I'm not really sure what that is for. It's probably money coming in from another team, either for, it's probably part of a research and development pool, because they're doing some research and development here on this case in televisions and motherboards, which is another version of this game, motherboards and television sets. So that appears there. The inventory tab is probably the most useful, at least planning sheet in the game. It gives you sales and things in units, so you can see exactly what you sold in terms of your unit sales in each of the areas. Now this little section here can often be quite confusing. It's called component sales. And in this case, you can see in Europe there were 44,000 units of batteries sold as components. And really what happens is those are sold to the smartphone plants. So you'll see down here that 22,000 were used in the first plant and 22,000 were used in the second plant, because you produce 22,000 smartphones in each plant, using up 44,000 batteries. And then this particular split, what you see here, in terms of the cost, so this 22,000 units of phones were produced, and the total cost for that was $9,270,230. So, you know, simple math, you can figure out exactly what the unit cost is. Now this 753,000 in front of it represents the component costs. So it looks like those were transferred probably at cost, but those 44,000 units of batteries cost a total of 753,000. So that's 22. So it looks like they were about, you know, $3 or $4 each, or $30 or $40 each, sold to the smartphones. So of those smartphones, you know, $30 per unit of those are made up of batteries. And the batteries, 50,000 units, cost 26,000. So we can just do some math here and find that the unit cost for a battery was indeed, you know, $53.24 was what it was. Now those are just the variable costs of production. Okay, so that doesn't include anything like you know, your R&D allocation or your fixed costs of plants or your depreciation or anything like that. So this is important for planning purposes in terms of figuring out exactly how much your variable costs are for production. Okay. As you scroll down through this sheet, you can see intra-company purchases. So these are things that you have purchased yourself from other areas. So it looks like you purchased 102,000 units of batteries and 46,000 units of smartphones, and I would say those probably came from China. Well, actually, yeah, most of the smartphones certainly did anyway, and the other ones, it looks like they came from Europe. So those are all supplied by yourself. Okay. There are no intercompany purchases. However, if you had purchased items from another team, that's where you would see them, under this intercompany purchases amount. Okay. The components expedited, that's an option that often happens in this game, and this can either be turned on or off by the administrator, but this allows teams to produce finished goods, or Y, without having a full complement of components or X available. So what happens is any components that are not available in your own inventory are expedited by a virtual company. You have to have at least some of your own X in order to produce Y, and the remaining amount is expedited if that option is available. There is also the ending inventory section, and remember that this is very important, this section on standard units and deluxe units in terms of setting prices. In this particular case, this company has only standard units available for sale, but those are all, and you can see exactly what's available for sale in each of these areas. So, for instance, this team has 50,000 X4 and 44,000 Y3 available in their European market, available for sale. So they can either sell those to the consumer market or ship them to other teams or other areas. Okay. Currency balances in this particular game. This was a single currency game, so you will just see balances across the diagonal here because all of the currencies are US dollars. In some games this may change, so you may have US dollars, euros, renminbi for China, and Swiss francs for home office. And there you can see your 16 bank accounts that you'd have to manage during the game. In this particular case, though, you only have to manage 4 US dollars in each market. Okay, so you can see how that would become tremendously complicated with 4 different currencies. It's certainly doable, but that's the way it works. Cash flow, this is a consolidated cash flow statement which looks at receipts and disbursements across each of the areas. This is helpful if you're running 4 currencies. I find that there's a number of different tools that I've made available that are better for managing cash flow, and in an upcoming video I'll go through one of those to show you how it works, okay, in terms of planning for upcoming periods. The last tab is the market research and decision form sections. So on this particular section you will see all of the market research that you ordered. So you get 3, 28, and 7 for free in this particular game. So you can see that you can take a look at the size of the market. It looks like 948,000 batteries were sold in North America and almost 400,000 smartphones. So that gives you an idea of that. The prices posted and the grades sold in consumer sales. So by looking at 17, you can see what grade everybody is selling. For instance, 2 and 3 seem to be selling both 4 and 5 grades of batteries. And again, remember that the negative ones represent no sales, so they're not selling any particular grades. And you can see that this firm has ordered some of the consultants' reports to see what costs are going to be like in the upcoming period. So those are all there. Okay. If you scroll right to the bottom, you'll find that there are a bunch of output things here that represent the decision forms. Okay, and you'll see some of them listed here. For instance, the marketing forms include such things as whether you opened or closed sales offices, prices, and advertising amounts. Okay, and those are consolidated across the different media. So that really just gives you a look at the decisions that you made over the course of the game. Although they're better presented on the website, you can see the various things that come up. And you can see the financial commitments that you have for future periods as well. In this case, it looks like this team has a loan for $100 million from the bank, or the central bank, which is going to go on up until actually ending this period in period 7. Okay, so that's what your output looks like for the Intopia simulation, and you'll get one of those each period, and it's important that you know how to read those.